Well, hi diddly ho, neighborinos. Good morning, and what can I tell you? Welcome back to Sentimental Elephant's musical journey. Been a hot minute. I checked. I thought it was like a couple of years. It's actually just said the channel says it's been 1 year since the last post on the musical journey. I thought it was two, but okay. It's been still quite a while. Here's what's going on. Why I haven't been doing this. A little bit of it was a little because a particular topic that was coming up next was a little bit of writer's block as to what exactly I was going to say about this artist. But kind of the main thing is that my main way of promoting these videos was through social media, and I am no longer on any social media platforms. I mean, I have them, but I just don't go on them for my own reasons. I've stepped away from that. So I don't really, have any way of sort of letting people know it was out there other than just sort of posting these. But you know what? Woke up this morning with I kind of had my breakthrough with this particular topic. I knew more or less what I was going to say, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go get this done. Maybe I'll do it later, and if I do it later, it'll just as easily stall out again. So I'm going to do it now. I'm on I'm on my vacation break right now. It's festival break. One of our main festivals, music festivals, is going on. I'm going to be seeing Green Day tonight. So I do have some free time. That said, this is my morning when I do my groceries, but I'm going to put that off until this is done because I care so much about you, all my loyal Rob Gutierrez. Welcome back. So, as you can probably see from the header, we're at Q on the musical journey, and for those of you who perhaps are a little fuzzy on what happened or haven't watched the first videos, I'm telling about the story of my life through various artists, my recollections of my interactions with these artists. I'm going through it alphabetically, one artist per letter, and if I get to the end of the alphabet, maybe we'll go back and revisit some letters, do some other artists. But, well, given that it's been a year since I did the last one, I was thinking I want to get back to this one because I don't leaving things unfinished, says the guy who has left plenty of things unfinished in his life. But let's see how this goes. We are at the letter Q. Q. Waiting for John Delancey to show up behind me. Star Trek joke. So Q is a letter with not a lot of musicians associated with it, oddly enough. It's one of those oddball sort of letters. I do have a live Quintessence album. It's kind of interesting, but I basically gave it one spin. Quicksilver Messenger Service, legendary Bay Area band with guitarists Gary Duncan and John Cipollina. I've liked what I've heard so far, but I haven't dug into them too much. I've got like a best of. Gave it a spin and it was cool, but that's basically it. I mainly know them for John Cipollina showing up on a live Grateful Dead album. These sound real freaking good. Also, his brother's Mario Cipollina from Huey Lewis and the News. So, small world. That's all I thought of, and then I remembered, somebody very important to mention before we get to the main event. My girl, Susie Q, Susie Quattro. So awesome. Love her. Check out some of her songs. She's really good. But, again, back to the top. Main subject. When you think of Q artists, generally people will think of one, and I'm not gonna go so off the beaten track that I'm going to ignore them. I do have a bit of a tale to tell regarding this band. Q is for Queen. Yes, we're doing Queen. Okay, so what can we say about Queen? I think most people know of them. Brian May, Roger Taylor, John Deacon, and the late, great, legendary Freddie Mercury. A lot of people know their hits. The Oscar-winning movie about them. True legends. So let me just bring out my little cheat sheet here, and we'll be going from that. So yes, Queen. Uh, my own history with Queen, a little bit all over the place. First time I heard Queen was in public school. I was born in 1970, and weirdly enough, I don't know, it was during lunch breaks where they had a whole bunch of different classes, including older students in there. Sorry about that, folks. Sorry for the cough in my throat that led to a little bit of a hiccup in the video. Dusty down here, so I got myself some water. So where was I? Public school. I remember that for this one part in public school, they had a bunch of different classes having lunch together, and one was there were some older students there, and it was around the time of News of the World. So for some reason, and a number of occasions, some of the older students would start singing "We Will Rock You," and might have done "We Are the Champions" too, but definitely remember them singing "We Will Rock You." I wasn't sure what they were doing, but that was my first exposure to Queen. First time I really registered them was with the game, and there's Another One Bites the Dust. That was the big hit. So that was me like knowing that there's this band called Queen. Actually, I think the first single I remember from that one was Crazy Little Thing Called Love. But that was me being aware of the band being, on the air. I enjoyed it. I didn't know, wasn't super, developing an opinion. I was like 10 years old when it came out. So, I didn't quite form strong opinions at that time. I was still developing very slowly any sense of what I liked and what I didn't like in music. Fast forward a few years, and more albums, more singles come out, so I know about them. We have the "I Want to Break Free" video, which wild video. Go check it out. It's very cool, very fun. But I wasn't sure quite what to make of it. I don't think I was thrown by the quite the whole drag aspect of it all. I mean, these days, of course, obviously enjoy. I should say obviously, but hey, I enjoy drag performances. But I think it was a little more the mustache with the busty costume that Freddie Mercury was wearing. That kind of raised an eyebrow about it. I was a teenager. I was early 80s suburban Ottawa, so it wasn't that sophisticated or that mature. But when I later heard that got banned for that, I thought it was kind of silly that they would do that. I mean, I got it. It was it was kind of a comedic part of the piece. It's like, why freak out over that? Yes, I'm looking at the next note. Okay, so for those of you who have maybe seen my Doors video, I mentioned my first girlfriend, Cheryl. Mustache itch, appropriately. My first girlfriend, Cheryl, awkward leading up to this statement, but the first time that we spent the night together. Hiccup again, sorry about that. First time we spent the night together, which is the first night I, shall we say, spent the night with anyone. At the time on the radio station I listened to, which was Shea 106, they had something they did late at night called the Night Owl Spotlight. And I forget when it was. It might have been like 2 a.m. or something. They would just take some time and play a long stretch of music from one artist, usually one side of an album. And when I was with her on our first time, the album that they were featuring was Queen 2, their second album, obviously. So I was sort of I remember talking with her about it while it was on, and she said that, well, they've got a great singer, which oddly enough, I hadn't actually quite triggered just how great a singer Freddie Mercury was before. It took me a bit before I truly appreciated his magnificence. But I'm since then I just sort of like wryly amused to think that yes, this important part in my personal journey was accompanied by the sound of the Seven Seas of Rye. I kind of like to think that Freddie would have approved. This is when I was in high school, and the library in high school did have a number of vinyl records that you could take out and listen to. And at some point, I saw Live Killers, which is sort of an album that's imprinted a bit on me, just because of that. I took it out a number of times, and I was really impressed by their stylistic range. They did a lot of different kinds of songs, and I like that a lot. I have a note here referring to Live Aid, the legendary Queen performance at Live Aid's justly celebrated. Missed it. Not just that I wasn't at Wembley Stadium at the time. I think that part of it, at least the visual broadcast, was done on Much Music, the Canadian music station, our equivalent of MTV at the time. And that was not on like a general cable service. I'm sure that might have been the time period where we didn't have cable, but I didn't actually see it. I do remember at some point my dad told me to go out and mow the lawn because it was the weekend and, I had chores to do. So I went out and did that, and I brought out a little portable radio. So when I wasn't actually mowing the lawn, I could hear what music was going on. But I don't remember hearing any of the performance from Queen. It was afterwards. I had a friend tell me, oh yeah, that was a really great performance. Like, okay, I guess so. And eventually, of course, I did see it. But it was as amazing as it was told. But I didn't actually get to catch it at the time. So part of history that passed me by while it was happening. I had to go back and catch back up with it. Speaking about Live Killers, one part that, just looking at my notes here, one part I missed. A few years ago, a friend of mine had posted something about Queen, was asking people to say what their favorite Queen song was, and eventually came on a song that I heard from there, which is Keep Yourself Alive. That's a real sort of energetic song. It might have been just like the one that had the strongest impression on me from both the album and from the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. But I don't know, there's just something about it. If I need an energy boost, it always gets me going. I love that song. The first album that I actually owned of theirs, I picked up at, of all things, the comic shop that I went to, which had some vinyl records and some tapes. This one was on cassette, which was A Night at the Opera. I felt, hey, let's go get the full album experience and find out what it's about. That's probably my favorite full-on out-and-out album of theirs. Not the most bold of choices. I'm sure it's a favorite album of a lot of people. It tends to be the one that gets mentioned the most. But I just loved that, the creativity of it, the span of it, things like the Prophet song and all of the little kind of vaudeville or things like Seaside Rendezvous or I come from London town. I'm just an ordinary guy. Fridays I go painting in the Louvre. I love that sort of, kind of not taking itself too seriously at points. And Good Company is another similar one. English music hall type of thing. Throwing in with these rock epics and gorgeous ballads. I love an artist where pick up an album and it's just not just great, great songs, but when it's a whole journey, like you're discovering this whole new world. Like that's one of the things I love about the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Stevie Wonder and the Waterboys and World Party and Kate Bush and things like that. And with Queen, you're not just getting one album full of heavy rockers or ballads. You get all kinds of things there. So that's why I love that. And I remember this is one of my strongest associations with it. It was before one of our vacation trips to visit our family in Newfoundland. For whatever reason, I know the reason. It was before any time of those trips, I would have challenging time getting to sleep the night before. So I remember listening to A Night at the Opera all the way through, and it kind of strongly associate that trip with that particular album. Another thing that I have on my notes here is my overall interest in the group got a bit more of an uptick when I was married, because my now ex-wife was a fan, and that's when I got this video. I wandered into a Walmart, of all places, and I had a little bit of cash so I could spend it on something. And so I saw this live Queen DVD, and I went and got it. And I remember when I was checking it out, and it's live from the Milton Keynes Bowl, and it's like Queen on Fires is the title of it. And the gentleman who is doing the checkout was a Jamaican chap, an older gentleman, and while he was checking out everybody's items, he was just merrily singing along. He was singing "Begin the Begin." I always remember that guy. And he gets to my item and looks at it and says, "Oh, the Queen is on fire. Better cool her down then." So, cheers to that chap. He was fun. Sorry, adjust myself here. So yeah, that's how I got this video, and it's actually kind of at an interesting point, because they just done and released the controversial Hot Space album. It's not really considered one of their classics. It's after The Game and the big success of Another One Bites the Dust, they kind of went deeper into exploring sort of a little more disco and funk sounds. And it was one of the strongest albums, but there were some interesting songs on it. They translated well live, like Back Chat and a few others. So they were doing something that wasn't just part of the standard issue Queen jukebox. There's some kind of unique performances in there. It's really good. Also, thing I didn't realize until much, much later, because they brought somebody else out as a guest performer, and it didn't really register at the time. And then I was like, watching it some years later, as the person they brought out and playing piano was Morgan Fisher. And I didn't recognize Morgan Fisher at the time I watched it, but by the time I came back to that performance, Morgan Fisher, keyboard player for Mott the Hoople. Mott the Hoople are one of my absolute favorite bands now, but kind of neat how that guest performance kind of slid by me at that one. Let's see here. Eventually I did get Me Being Me. I think might have been before lockdown, but might have been during. But I got the box sets of their individual studio albums, because I'm, of course, 900 years old, and I still actually own music, and I like buying these things whenever I can. So I do have all of their albums, so I have listened to all of them. Side note, meant to get to this earlier. I said my favorite album of theirs, favorite studio album, is A Night at the Opera. Still is. But just a little kind of to the side, not super well publicized, not one of the more famous albums, but the album Jazz is a really cool album. It may be because that was the album they were touring when they made Live Killers. But they go some pretty interesting directions there. There's a lot of cool songs on it, like Get Down, Make Love, Let Me Entertain You. I believe the Dreamer's Ball is on that one, Mustafa. So if you're interested, give that one a spin. That's a very cool album. I said very cool album multiple times, but it's kind of not my favorite, but one of my favorites that nobody else thinks about. I'm looking here, my notes, peering. Okay, last item on the history part of this is Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie. This came out like a year or so after my divorce. And my friend Aaron, God bless you, Aaron, if you're watching this, took me out to see it because she really wanted to see it, so we went out together. Here's the thing, I am an insufferable music geek. You may or may not have noticed that. So it was a good movie, really impressive performance by Rami Malek. That said, there's a lot of inaccuracies, things being kind of moved around for, I guess, dramatic effect, but there are various little bits and pieces I kind of saw. I was like, okay, that's not quite what went down. Normally with this, when that happens, I would turn to the person next to me, and I was used to doing that with my now ex-wife, and say, oh, by the way, I didn't think that would be a good idea. I kept my mouth shut, just because, my Aaron, I think, just wanted to go see the movie and be, enjoy it, be entertained by it. I had to curb my natural inclination to try to be the smartest guy in the room, and just kept my mouth shut and let her watch it, enjoy it. So you're welcome, I guess. Okay, so. Oh yes, one other little detail here, Mark Martel. At some point in my employment history, one of my coworkers, Emily, she sent me a link to a video for Mark Martel. Mark Martel, I think this video went kind of viral at the time. Belief from Montreal, Canadian singer and musician, and he was, I believe, auditioning for. Band officially sanctioned Queen tribute, and it was a performance of him doing Somebody to Love, which was incredibly close, not just in timbre, but also in style and spirit. He would take little moments to throw quick interjections, maybe just to show it's like, yeah, I'm not lip syncing, this is really me, but things that maybe Freddie Mercury might have done at that time. I was lucky a couple of years ago to see a Queen tribute, and Mark Martel was the vocalist, and he's an amazing singer. He completely delivered, and so if he shows up with a Queen tribute, go see him. It's completely worth the while. A lot of pauses. Apologize for that. Quite dusty, and it's been a while since I've done this. So now my personal history with Queen. But now I'm going to talk about my relationship with Queen. This is kind of one of the things that was maybe a factor in sort of the writer's block and me not sure where I was going to go with this. Because I had a little bit of an observation at this point. It's like, with this in my life before, where I thought, I love this band. They're an amazing band. I love them. But I kept feeling like I would never love them as much as the average Queen fan loves them. Like their dedication to that band. And I'm not talking about the hardcores. I just mean average Queen fans. It seems to be just so intense. It's like, I don't think I could quite manage that, because I'm into a lot of different music. So it's like, there's only so much that I can emotionally invest in one thing, even though it's frequently pretty deep, but it's not exactly the biggest biggest selling point for telling a tale, to say, well, this is a band that I don't quite like as much as their fans do, which is not quite the same thing. But I was like, okay, and I think I finally managed to get a grip on what it is, and it's same with a number of musical artists that I enjoy and that I love. and it's going to go on a weird little tangent, but we'll come back. But we'll find our way back. I was way back in the day, and this is how far back it was. It was an email list about the band The Posies, who were a Seattle power pop band, mostly from the 90s. This was in the 90s. And somebody had posted, say, "Hi, I'm, they're a new person to the list, and they're introducing themselves. Say, hi, glad to be part of this, this Posies email group. And my favorite band is, I forget what it was, but it was some band, not the Posies. And some young member of the list sort of went off and said, well, this list is for people whose, only for people whose favorite band is the Posies. And fortunately, somebody sort of stepped in and says, no, you don't have to have your favorite band be the Posies. You just have to like the Posies. And I've met the two main members of the Posies before, and I was like, just, at a show that they did in Ottawa, I was wondering how I would like say to them, was like, my favorite band wasn't literally the Posies, but I did love them. Didn't stop them from being, stop me from being a fan of their music, even if I didn't put them at the absolute number one spot. And eventually I thought of something, and I don't know if don't want to bruise any band's egos when I say to them, but there's a lot of bands like this, and I would say this for Queen. Are they necessarily my absolute number one favorite band? No. But I'll give them this. I'll say this for them. They are my favorite band when I'm listening to them. There's times for different artists, and in my life, sometimes I'm deeply listening to one particular artist. Sometimes I'll just have a craving and I want to listen to another artist. And the fact is, you don't have to put rankings on anything, and this is number 1 and this is number 15 or whatever. The fact is, when I have Queen's music on, they are absolutely my favorite band. They enrich my my life, whatever it is I'm looking for. If I want to get my heart broken, if I want to get up and going, if I want to dance, if I want to have a laugh at a fun whimsical song, if I want to just have my brain stretched by a lot of it. I love them, and they're there for me. That's a lot of artists are like that for me, and I'm just talking the point of Queen, this wonderful, unique band. There's nobody else, exactly like Queen. You can't, some people have taken some of their aspects and brought them into their music, but you're never going to be Queen. And I can go a while without thinking of them, but when I come back to them, they're there, and they will scratch that itch, and they will fill that void in my life. God bless them for that. And just looking at, I have a little note here for the term art rock. Now, this is a term I've used off and on for ages. I don't know if I've ever used it technically right, but at this point I'm using it the way I like to use it. I used to use it as basically being just another synonym for progressive rock. At this point, I kind of think of art rock as being, it's is it a subgenre of progressive rock, or maybe it's just a sort of vague heading that's kind of prog adjacent. But there was a period in the mid 70s where it was this odd little overlap of, to varying degrees, this kind of Venn diagram, the circles overlapping of progressive rock, kind of ambitious mainstream pop, and glam rock, to varying sort of degrees of other. And I call that art rock, where it's maybe not full-on progressive rock, but I kind of sometimes thought of it. And we're talking about artists they weren't hardcore prog. They could get their music on like AM radio. They could have like, straightforward pop singles, but they're always kind of going for something different, and sometimes went, deeper at different times than others. I could say 10cc, Supertramp, a lot of stuff that Bowie was doing at the time, Roxy Music, and like right square in the middle of that, you got Queen. They were kind of prog. And they were kind of, I mentioned the Prophet song. There's a lot of really sort of experimental numbers that they did. They were very adventurous. That is something that the movie did kind of make sure to put in, like the trying wild different things in their recordings, or just throwing sort of styles. I mean, hell, Bohemian Rhapsody itself, nobody's ever going to be able to create something quite like that. But they had the glam rock swagger, and they could do straightforward, cool pop songs that just, you can, songs that, your postman could whistle. And that would be sort of, if I would want to explain what I meant by art rock, I would start with Queen. And wanted to give a shout out to the band itself as a band. I know that Freddie Mercury understandably gets a lot of the attention, but this was a band. They're all great at their individual instruments. Roger Taylor still is an amazing singer, very distinct quality. Brian May actually is, I think, an underrated vocalist. He's kind of very similar with very similar timbre to Freddie Mercury. They actually have fairly close vocals, and I think there's some instances where people might be thinking, "Oh, that's Freddie Mercury singing." No, it's Brian May. Not all of the technical fireworks, or the panache that Freddie could throw in, but actually I think that works well as a backing vocalist, to sort of lay down that sort of blanket, so that Freddie himself can do his fireworks on, to dazzle on top of it. Also quite a lovely warmth to his vocals. I enjoy Brian May as a singer, and they're all great musicians, like instrumentalists, including Freddie on piano. So a lot of credit, and want to make sure give the full band their props, because they're really, really, really good all throughout. They have amazing creativity, and I just want to make sure that's want to mention that. I just want to say last thing here. I mentioned I have all the albums. I've listened to all the albums. I don't know all the albums top to bottom, and some are stronger than others, and some are not so much. Sorry about that. One last pause, hopefully. As I was saying, I don't know all those albums top to bottom, but I think that's a little bit of a good thing for me right now. There's still mysteries left to uncover, so I like that. I haven't quite gotten all I can out of that band, so I've got some more to look forward to, I trust. So it's not the most organized videos, but hey, I got it done. Here we are at the end, and hopefully I can keep things going. I'm just going to keep putting these out there until I get to the end. Fingers crossed. And I just want to thank anybody out there who's been steadily watching these. I do appreciate it. I've been using the channel for posting some of my own performances of other people's songs. Hopefully there'll be more of that as well. But I am looking forward to continuing on with the musical journey, and just want to thank you folks, anybody out there who's been there a while. We got a few more steps to go, and I'm gonna make sure we get this completed. So thanks so much. I will see you the next time. Bye-bye.